JJK 254 is finally here, and you are not going to believe what happens. Strap in, spoiler warning. The chapter begins with Kusakabe monologuing on Simple Domain, talking about how it's an anti-domain technique, but even that aside, it is still a domain, even though it's a simple one in and of itself. We then see him cast a Simple Domain and call it Evening Moon Sword Drawing. Sukuna wonders what the point of this is because he can just send dismantles flying at Kusakabe, and then he does exactly that. However, as soon as they reach him, Kusakabe just starts deflecting them all with his sword, and he says that inside his simple domain, his cursed energy output is amplified, and Sukuna's technique will get weaker. Kusakabe has essentially added a system where he will automatically attack anything that enters the domain. This is exactly what we saw Miwa do all the way back in the Sister School event, and Sukuna is impressed with Kusakabe's reflexes. We learn that Kusakabe has been reading Sukuna's attacks by reading that spark of cursed energy at the moment an attack happens. That combined with the reflexes in the simple domain are allowing Kusakabe to do this. But then just as he was boasting about this, another round of slashes come even faster and Kusakabe is barely able to react to them. And he realized that Sukuna sent these slashes without even doing that initial spark. It then cuts to another flashback like we got at the beginning of last chapter, where we have Gojo, Meme, and Nanami talking about Kusakabe, gassing him up basically. We start with Gojo praising Kusakabe's simple domain. He says that most people have to enact binding vows in order to cast a simple domain, but Kusakabe doesn't, and on top of that, the effective range of Kusakabe's simple domain is huge. We then cut back to the present where Kusakabe realizes Sukuna is about to cast his dimensional slash. In response to this, Kusakabe increases the range of his simple domain. We then cut back to this flashback where Meme says most people that use this sword drawing simple domain have to lure their opponents in order to be able to hit them automatically. But not Kusakabe, he can instead just extend his range to trap the opponent in unexpectedly. We then cut back to the present once again, and Kusakabe is doing exactly this, and there is a double spread page of Kusakabe just going crazy. We then cut back to the flashback where Nanami is saying, I don't know anyone that can manage to block Kusakabe's barrage of swings in this way, except, well, Gojo, because he doesn't even need to block it. We cut back to the present once again, and Kusakabe's sword has literally broken just from the amount of times he has wailed on Sukuna with this thing. But that doesn't stop him. He rips off his coat and just starts throwing hands instead. While this is happening, Kusakabe starts to think to himself and he wonders, why am I doing this? Why am I putting my life on the line? And his mind starts to wander to Yaga. He realizes, what would Yaga do if he were here? Would he judge me for not putting my life on the line? And he realizes that he wouldn't. But he does think Yaga would be sad, not because Kusakabe wasn't doing enough, but because he wasn't here fighting alongside them. We then once again cut back to these three as they are explaining why they chose Kusakabe as the strongest grade 1 sorcerer, and it's because of his kindness. It then cuts back to Kusakabe, and I kid you not, Gege has basically drawn Kusakabe in the Honored One pose. This meme has come to life, and he is basically thinking to himself, I can't keep thinking about nonsense. The kids fought with their lives on the line. Kusakabe then uses the Hazy Moon technique of the new Shadow style, and essentially what this is he takes his broken katana and forms a new blade out of cursed energy with it. He then goes for a strike on Sukuna. However, Sukuna catches the blade with 2 fingers, and he laughs and basically says, this was so obvious, you were going for my wounded heart. The very next panel is Kusakabe already splayed out on the ground, a massive X across his chest where he's been slashed by Sukuna. Ui immediately shows up to retrieve Kusakabe, but this is what Sukuna has been waiting for, and Sukuna basically immediately appears behind him saying, you've been really annoying. But then, and I kid you not, Miguel shows up and saves Ui instantly. Sukuna says, who are you? And Miguel says, you must be living under a rock for not knowing who I am. You islanders need to sharpen your senses. What? And that's where the chapter ends. Just, what? And the editor's note absolutely glazes Miguel by referring to him as the one who went toe-to-toe with Gojo. Let's calm down a little bit, okay? But what? Who saw this coming? No one. And if you said you did, you're lying, okay? But Miguel is back. I mean, what the hell? Thank God, I guess. I was nervous for Ui, man. I felt like Sukuna was waiting for him to show up again so he could take him out. But no, did not have this on my bingo card. Holy shit. A lot to think about. You guys already know the drill. When the better translations, the full chapter comes out, we'll be putting out more content on this. But in the meantime, let me know your thoughts on these leaks.